Unbeknownst to many, there has been an ongoing crisis in the online game Overwatch for quite some time. Now, of course, there have been many crises of late, and even some of the big shot YouTubers, such as Stylosa of Unit Found, terrible British gaming, have made mention of this. I mean, Season 5 is an absolute disaster, though in contrast to what many people believe, the game has never been particularly good because of its design. That's neither here nor there, because I want to stick to topic. The issue at hand is really the lack of support. Now, if you are reasonable about counting support, we need to actually exclude Symmetra, and there's a lot of debate about this, but unless you want to count Torbjorn as support, we can't really count Symmetra's support. She fulfills a very similar function to Torbjorn in that she is a defensive hero. She doesn't heal. Now, it's true that a healer needn't be the exclusive support role, but in terms of her damage output and her general effects in the game, I think she's much closer to a Torbjorn than she is a Lucio or a Zenyatta. With that said, let's count the number of healers or support in the game at the current moment. That is 4. We have Mercy, we have Lucio, we have Zenyatta, and we have Ana. Ana was released over a year ago. She was an addition post-game launch, but since then we haven't seen a single support. Now, it is true that Blizzard is exceedingly slow to release new heroes. Their rationalization for this is they need to be slow and methodical and think about the impact a hero has in the game. All well and good. But if we actually count the total number of DPS or attack or offensive heroes, we're going to find that the numbers are quite skewed. Because the categories are fairly arbitrary. I mean, defensive, support. We have to actually examine what the function of the heroes in the game and how they are played and how often they are played. So let's talk about the number of DPS we have. We have Reaper, that's 1. We have Soldier 76, and that's 2. We have Tracer, that's 3. We have Genji, that's 4. We have McCree, that's 5. We have Pharah, that's 6. We have Sombra, a fairly recent addition, that's 7, and you can argue whether she's support or not, but she does have a damage output. She is basically an attack hero with some added benefits. And then we have the most recent addition, Doomfist, that's 8. All well and good, but I would quite easily add Hanzo here. Hanzo, yeah, he's a defensive hero, but people use him on attack and defense all the time. And of course, Widowmaker, I would argue, sees equal usage on attack and defense. So we essentially have 10 different attack or DPS heroes. And you can argue about Junkrat. I'm not going to include him because I'm trying to be conservative here. 10 offensive or attack or DPS heroes and 4 support or 4 healers. We're talking about more than twice the number. Never mind the fairly limited number of tanks. They're somewhere in between, obviously. And we had Orisa added, but Orisa, that would be the topic of a separate video, is just lacking in many ways. So there are a couple of reasons why this might be the case, or probably is the case. At the end of the day, Blizzard, like any company, is a business. And they need to pander to the people who play the game, and most people are DPS egomaniacs. The number of support mains is vanishingly small compared to the number of DPS mains. And so Blizzard would reckon, I imagine, that we need to introduce more DPS to accommodate the greater numbers of players who want to play DPS. And we also have to be honest in that the creation of a DPS hero is significantly easier because you just need to tinker with how you're going to kill stuff than the creation of an interesting and dynamic support hero. Of the support heroes, there are in fact only 3 heroes that are reasonably dynamic. Mercy is not a dynamic hero. She's a very low-skill hero who incidentally has possibly the most powerful ults in the game, but that's a separate topic. So we have 3 dynamic support, 1 support which is very boring and not dynamic at all. Now, I can understand the reasoning behind this, but eventually, Blizzard will need to cave in and create more healing heroes, not just random strange support heroes. There's some rumor of a support hero that creates barriers and walls in a similar fashion to Mei that blocks people off, but actual healers. Now, I have a couple of ideas towards this end, but I don't know if it's important to mention them here. I want to make this video relatively brief. I think Blizzard should be striving for a more balanced number of heroes in the total hero pool. Now, of course, I could imagine some people might protest and say, well, look, eventually we're going to have equal numbers of support. I'm not so sure about that. As I said, the trajectory of the game and the player base, with these days close to 40 million players, is such that support is just not a popular role to take, even though 3 of the sport take a reasonable amount of skill to play. So I don't really know what the solution is here, other than I could hope that Blizzard, for the next 2 heroes, in fact, introduces healers as opposed to more DPS or more tanks, or perhaps 1 more tank and 1 more healer. But I think for the next 2 releases, we have the DPS covered quite well, particularly with the introduction of Doomfist, who is, by and far the most unique DPS in his function and how he's played and all that jazz. So, with that said, I think I will bring this video to a close. I don't want to make it too long. I do have a fairly fleshed out idea for a new support. I doubt people are interested in hearing about it because I'm a nobody YouTuber and everyone's got their own ideas, and I doubt Blizzard would listen to me because I'm a nobody as well. But we can only hope for the best. We can only hope that people who play supports such as myself, and I play 3 of the 4 support heroes on a fairly regular basis, in addition to several tanks, that we get a break. Because one of the reasons why the game is so stale is because cycling through Zen, Ana, and Lucio is getting a bit boring when there's so many different DPS a person can cycle through if they, in fact, are so inclined. And before people say, well, just play DPS, well, somebody's got to support, right? Everyone, thanks for listening, watching. I will check you out later. I will consider releasing a video with my fully fleshed out idea for a very special type of support that would be interesting for even DPS players to play, but at the same time would fulfill the healing support role. Everyone take care, and may the gods watch over you. Bye-bye.